You're absolutely right to condemn the barbaric character of Russia's actions in Ukraine, the almost certain missile attack against a children's hospital is an absolute outrage. The kidnapping of children and the illegal and unjustifiable invasion is barbaric. There's no question about it, and really Putin is sort of reminiscent in his barbarism of Stalin. So there's no doubt we should all join together in condemning it. But what I also find sort of incredible is the Orwellian double-think of the people, many of the people who attend peace conferences such as that, say all these justifiable things about Putin's horrors in Ukraine, and at the same time, many of those same leaders are providing weapons and arms and political support to the state of Israel while it does things every bit, if not more, horrific to the people of Gaza. Israel is, as we speak, is issuing evacuation orders in Gaza City and other places. Tens of thousands are fleeing in terror as they continue their barbaric assault. The Lancet medical journal is now estimating that the real death toll, when you uncover all the bodies that are buried under the rubble, when you look at the indirect deaths that are resulting from the hospital infrastructure, the civilian infrastructure being destroyed, the famine conditions, that 186,000 Palestinians may have been killed by Israel's genocidal slaughter. And yet the people at that peace conference continue to, many of them, provide weapons to the state that's doing this. I mean, it's absolutely shocking. Double standards is too weak a word for it. It is actually Orwellian. And it means the people who talk about territorial integrity or the UN Charter are just hypocrites. They don't give a damn about the UN Charter. They don't give a damn about children. They don't give a damn about hospitals being hit, because if they did, they'd be as horrified at what's being done by Israel as we speak, and has been done for 9 months, against the hospitals, the schools, the water infrastructure, and the tens and tens of thousands of people being slaughtered. When is this hypocrisy going to be called out, Taoiseach? Because, to be honest, the strength of language is not enough. I admit your government is better than many, but we're not taking the sort of action necessary in terms of imposing sanctions and calling out the shocking, obscene double standards of Western governments who are arming the Israeli genocide.
Paul Murphy.
Look, thanks very much, Cahirlach. Well, firstly, I welcome the fact, and I say this sincerely, that everybody in this House that's spoken clearly condemns the horrific actions of Putin, and I accept that and I acknowledge it, and I think it's important that we say that, particularly after the horror of the Children's Hospital, and I do want to acknowledge that. And just to be clear, not that I expect you to follow what I say at these summits, but I did very clearly say in my contribution on behalf of Ireland that I felt there was that we couldn't sit at a peace summit, and a peace summit that Israel were present at, and ignore the humanitarian catastrophe that is unfolding in the Middle East. I called it out. I think Norway also called it out. Many others didn't. And, you know, I did find it ironic that Israel were present at the peace summit. And I did call it out because I thought, I do think there's a real challenge here, and I've said this, I've said it at the European Council, others have said it too, and not that many, but, you know, a consistency of approach. Like, this country often gets defined as, are we pro-Palestinian, are we pro-this, and we can all have our different perspectives, but fundamentally, our foreign policy is grounded in being pro-international law and pro-human rights. And a child is a child is a child, whether it's a child being brutally murdered in the Middle East, in Gaza, or whether it's a child in a hospital in Ukraine. I mean, this country should always call it out, and I do actually believe, and you're right, there's some countries that may not have been at the peace summit for different reasons, including alliances with Russia, so parking that. I believe there are other countries in other parts of the world, outside the West, if we want to call it that, or who do challenge us on the inconsistent approach that there is to different conflicts. And there can't be a hierarchy when it comes to international law or to human rights. So I agree that actually the inconsistent approach being adopted by some countries and being adopted by the European Union as a whole in relation to the conflict and the war in the Middle East versus the brutal illegal invasion in Ukraine is actually possibly hampering a consistent global approach being taken. And I think I have no difficulty in saying that because I believe it to be true. In relation to what kind of concrete actions we're taking, well, in my conversations with President Zelensky, and I've had a few at this stage, he does ask that we continue to reach out to countries where Ireland has a traditional and a track record of support via development aid and others, to ask those countries to come to the table. Because I don't believe, and I heard the commentary that you read out there, Deputy Murphy, and I've heard other commentary to that same degree. You can either adopt a glass half full or glass half empty approach to the peace summit in Switzerland. I believe there was value in it, in the sense that it was the largest gathering of countries, of leaders, and of international organisations since the conflict began, since Putin's illegal invasion began. And in that sense, that in and of itself had value. I think there was a lot of work done in the breakout sessions, including that work that I referenced in my opening statement around humanitarian aid, around abducted children, around food supply and food security, that helps, or at least that we must work on in the here and now. But I do also believe that, and by the way, I also believe the fact that there was a broad consensus in relation to principles for peace that do need to respect the UN Charter, territorial integrity, sovereignty is important. I do believe, though, that the next peace summit, and I hope there's another one, has to obviously seek to bring more people to the table. And that's a role that Ireland will continue to endeavour to play. And of course, from a concrete initiatives point of view, we continue to assist Ukraine, not just from a humanitarian point of view, not just from welcoming people from Ukraine here seeking refuge, but also through demining, through the work that our ESB has helped. I know one of the big concerns that Ukraine has right now is its energy. It's keeping the lights on, because Putin is particularly targeting energy supply, and also trying to assist in relation to issues around cybersecurity.